sharing now?
You can
Not
if you'd
yet.
like. You should
Eh,
have
eh,
you should have the ability to share.
Now you're sharing.
I apologize. Here we go. There we go. Today, I am presenting my dissertation entitled Benefits of Privatized Institutions of Higher Learning in Uganda, a Case Study. Thank you to my dissertation committee, Dr. Letizia, my chair and advisor, Dr. Snyder, my second reader and methodologist, and Dr. Turner Little, my third reader, and of course you, the committee. Introduction. The history of Uganda in education is a dynamic narrative that has evolved over centuries, shaped by cultural, political, socioeconomic factors, and importantly, colonialism. Despite recent progress in the educational system, challenges and issues of quality and equity persist. Studying Uganda and the Green Pasture College was inspired by Mr. Dave Bill Walker, a missionary who works for an organization, It Is Well, that raises money to drill wells around the world. Mr. Walker drilled a well in Mabal, Uganda, and fell in love with its people. In working towards fulfilling the mission and vision of It As Well, Mr. Walker helped found the Green Springs Theological College, which has since become Green Pasture College. Purpose of the study, statement of the problem. Education can be a means to reduce poverty rates, which in turn leads to a better quality of life for individuals, as well as economic growth for Uganda. Nevertheless, the current educational system that is in place in Uganda is only minimally used. Recent evidence suggests higher education is a determinant as well as a result of income and can produce public and private benefits. Women and those in lower socioeconomic classes in Uganda are often not the beneficiaries of higher education. However, these populations directly benefit from higher education. The benefits of higher education extend to improved technology, knowledge transfer, promotion of national unity, support of innovation, increase in productivity, preparation of individuals for the democratic process, an increase in job opportunities, stabilization of the economy, and possibly the addition of years to life expectancy. Research questions. The overarching research question for this study was, in the establishment of new privatized institutions of higher learning in Uganda, what strategies are being used in their development to provide societal, community, and individual benefits of a higher education, and how does Green Pasture College characterize these benefits? Research question 2. To what extent are higher educational opportunities for women incorporated into the development process of privatized institutions of higher learning, specifically Green Pasture College, and what do the founders see as the benefits to women? Theoretical framework. The theoretical underpinning for this study is institutional isomorphism. Institutional isomorphism suggests that organizations are similar in both structure and process because they often share the same developmental parameters. For example, goals, laws, and regulations, voids in educational offerings, and societal pressures and norms. Conceptual framework. Under the umbrella of institutional isomorphism theory, available literature suggests there are three driving forces for the creation of privatized institutions of higher learning: economics, voids, and non-seculars. However, even though each reason can partially explain the creation of privatized institutions of higher learning, the individual reasons, economics, voids, and non-seculars, are not strong enough to thoroughly stand on their own to explain the why and how of the development. This is the gap in the literature. Main themes in the literature. There are three main themes in the literature. These are voids. Privatized institution of higher learnings emerged due to significant voids, such as curricular gaps in public schools, the absence of spiritual or religious components, or perceived ideological shortcomings in public universities. The second, economics, which encompasses market dynamics and the supply and demand forces. The third would be voids. Oops, sorry, already said voids. Non-seculars. Non-secular motives involve religious affiliated institutions desiring to impart their teaching to students. However, these three reasons do not explain the broader development of privatized institutions of higher learning in Uganda. This research connects economics, voids, and non-seculars, highlighting the need for further examination into their interplay. Methodology. This research used a single institution as its subject, employing an instrumental qualitative case study approach. The instrumentation used was a set of interview questions designed for and geared towards the group being interviewed. These questions pertained to themes developed from literature review and included college development, isomorphism theory, private non-seculars, women and special populations, benefits to individuals, community, country, economics, voids, and non-seculars. Data collection. As the researcher, I had planned on conducting on-site interviews. However, this did not occur due to several reasons. Significantly, the State Department has highly suggested that U.S. citizens not travel to Uganda. One of the reasons for a travel advisory is terrorist attacks on schools. Although the initial design included on-site interviews or digital meetups via a computer platform such as Zoom, interviews were conducted through email correspondence and through the gathering of public documents that were available from Green Pasture College. Participants were staff, administrators, current and graduated students, founders of Green Pasture College, and it as well international board members. An unfortunate incident occurred with my main contact in Uganda. He compiled a set of data, answers to a reworded question, and he was robbed. Among the things taken from him at gunpoint was his laptop with all of the collected data. Unfortunate for me, but traumatizing for him. Demographics. The sample universe chosen from affiliates of Green Pasture College was not random and used purposive sampling. The 12 participants included 2 members of the It Is Well International Board, 4 members of the college, 3 current female students, and 3 graduated male students. Data analysis. Data analysis was performed in a number of purposeful steps that included the assistance of a computerized assisted qualitative data analysis system, Atlas TI for coding, which I will refer to as CAQDAS. CAQDAS was used as a tool for the coding process. However, it was necessary to be familiar with the information being entered into the CAQDAS as well as scrutinizing the output. CAQDAS is not able to understand nuances in language, for example, humor or sarcasm, and it was imperative that the output be meaningful from a human aspect, as well as making connections that were pertinent to the study. Documents and artifacts. Documents that included Green Pasture College strategic plan and the Uganda Vision 2040 were analyzed using steps that included the assistance of CAQDAS. Interviews were compared to documents through determining which themes were shared. Research question 1. There were several themes that manifested from the respondent data and the data from document analysis that included empowerment, infrastructure, literacy, corruption, crime prevention, leadership skills, economics, engagement and outreach benefits, tribalism culture, academics, ministry, and outreach. Importantly, at this point, The research revealed an interconnectedness between various issues and entities and how they are all linked to each other. Analysis of research question 1. Participants highlighted how education empowers individuals, communities, and Uganda as a whole. Empowerment, defined as gaining control over one's life and contributing to societal issues, was seen as pivotal in personal growth, character development, and discovering one's calling. Participants further emphasized that the educational benefits of Green Pasture College is in its support in equipping individuals with knowledge and skills, particularly in interpreting and applying the Word of God, which participants believe enhances leadership in the ministry and community service. The education provided by Green Pasture College was noted to foster unity, peace, and poverty reduction within communities, ultimately contributing to national development. The curriculum, also a stated benefit at Green Pasture College, was praised for preparing students for various roles such as sermon preparation, church administration, financial management, and entrepreneurship. The focus on practical skills alongside spiritual development was highlighted as beneficial for both personal and professional growth. Community engagement and outreach were also significant benefits discussed. The college's efforts to educate illiterate church leaders and ministers through outreach programs were highlighted, illustrating a commitment to extending educational opportunities to underserved population and facilitating social change. Research question 2. What made this particular question interesting is that there was a lack of data in respondent answers pertaining to women. The lack of data was considered a non-finding, which can be translated into a finding. Research question 2 analysis. The lack of data related to research question 2 is a possible indication of several issues that relate to how conservative Christianity teachings may impact what Ugandans believe about the role of women in the home, in the ministry, and in education. It could also be an indication that colonization and the advent of the patriarchal system in Uganda became prominent. Could also possibly reveal how cultural beliefs about women dictate whether a family sees benefits in a higher education for the family she comes from rather than the family she marries into. While attitudes towards female education are evolving, undervaluation persists and females encounter obstacles in primary education, including biased teachers, inadequate facilities for menstruating students, sexual assault, and economic pressures leading to dropout. These challenges result in a scarcity of potential female candidates for higher education. Higher education is thought to be a means to reduce violence against women and has been shown to improve women's household negotiation power and increase their socioeconomic success. Research suggests an inverse relationship between the percentage of women's post-secondary education and the percentage of women who experience partner violence. In the literature, there's also a suggested negative correlation between female genital mutilation and higher education. Female genital mutilation is a major contributor to poverty and illiteracy. Christianity, the importance of Christianity. Participants emphasize the importance of receiving a Christian education, which they believe enhances moral development, deepens faith, and improves leadership skills. Administrators highlighted that private colleges offer a curriculum grounded in Christian principles and provide access to resources like study Bibles that are often lacking in public institutions. Several students pointed out the scarcity of a theology program in public universities as a significant factor in their decision to attend Green Pasture College. This scarcity or void ties into the literature as one of the predominant reasons privatized institutions of higher learning are developed. As indicated by responses, students value the opportunity to study in an environment that integrates biblical teachings with academic pursuits, emphasizing the practical application of faith in everyday life and ministry. Green Pasture College's strategic plan corroborates these findings, highlighting its mission to provide holistic education rooted in Christian values. Comparison of interviews to documents. The comparison between documents and interviews presented key differences that include the emphasis on benefits of private non-secular education and reasons for choosing such institutions, prominently discussed in Green Pasture documents and interviews, but absent in the Uganda Vision 2040. Both Green Pasture and the Uganda Vision 2040 share concerns about improving education, enhancing employability, and fostering societal progress, albeit with differing focuses on public versus private educational sectors. Green Pasture College aligns its strategic objectives with Uganda Vision 2040. Excuse me. I had to cough. Focusing on delivering quality education, fostering research, and promoting technological innovation. These efforts, which are benefits of a higher education, are aimed at contributing to national development goals, including poverty reduction and societal advancement through education and skill development. Limitations. The most notable limitations to this research included geographical challenges, for example, the distance, self-reporting, which has an inherent bias, and a single subject case study, which limited the data pool, and importantly, the email interview. Future research. Future research in the developmental process of privatized institutions of higher learning and its potential benefits should delve into the very significant connection between Christianity and the citizenry of Uganda. Limited research on women and college gender parity suggests that further research needs to be conducted in this area to determine how the inclusion of more women in higher education can benefit women and the citizenry of Uganda. Mugabe states, notwithstanding their increasing growth in numbers and student enrollments, religiously affiliated universities remain less understood, largely due to meager scholarly works. Religious institutions of higher education is another area that needs further exploration. The Uganda Vision 2040 and Green Pasture College strategies, in following the outlined guidelines of the Uganda Vision 2040, are making concerted efforts aimed at addressing many of the issues that could potentially reshape the direction of education in Uganda and enhance its societal impact. However, it is important to have future research into the actual effects of the Uganda Vision 2040 to determine if indeed it is having a positive result. What struck me is the oxymoron of the Uganda 2040 Vision's desire to modernize, but the appearance of a non-progressive culture. Conclusion. The development of an effective educational system is crucial for improving living standards in Uganda. This system encompasses both public and private schools, with a focus on retaining young girls in primary education and creating pathways to higher education. Green Pasture College, a Christian-based institution, was highlighted in the study for its perceived benefits relating to Christianity and community service. However, the study did not provide clear insights into the benefits of privatized higher education beyond Christian institutions. The results of this study, based on a thorough analysis of participant responses, suggest that the primary benefits of higher education, particularly within a private Christian-based higher educational setting, fosters empowerment, possibly through nurturing Christian principles and morals. The emphasis on Christianity suggests implications for the role of women in Uganda and how they relate to Christian ideologies and the biblical interpretation of the role of women. The study further indicates that respondents believe non-secular higher education provides significant benefits to individuals, communities, and Uganda, particularly through an emphasis on Christian morals and values. The development of Green Pasture College appeared to be motivated by a desire to provide Christian-centered education, potentially including conversion efforts, though this intention was not explicitly stated. Despite Uganda's constitutional provisions against a state religion, and those that fall under Christianity, plays a substantial role in the country's political, legal, and policy framework influenced historically by colonization and external conservative Christian groups. The existing literature typically attributes the development of private institutions of higher learning to singular factors like economics, addressing educational voids, or fulfilling non-secular educational needs. However, this study suggests a combination of these factors may be at play, with Green Pasture College emerging primarily to meet the educational needs of a Christian-centered population, filling a void in theological education. Economic factors were less evident in the study's finding, but could indirectly influence crime prevention, employment, and poverty reduction. Uganda's Vision 2040 acknowledges gender disparities in education, aiming to improve institutional barriers and promote gender equality. However, the study raises concerns about female student retention and the perceived benefits of higher education for women at Green Pasture College. Conservative Christian beliefs, influenced by cultural norms and biblical interpretations, may shape attitudes towards gender roles and equality within the educational context. Ultimately, the development of private institutions of higher learning involves a complex interplay of multiple entities and motivations that are not easily discernible at first glance. The influence of Christianity on Uganda's political landscape continues to be significant despite constitutional provisions for religious freedom. Religious leaders play a strategic role in influencing political change in a constrained environment, reflecting the deep integration of religion into Ugandan culture, and importantly, education. The emergence of Christian-based colleges in Uganda can be seen as a direct response to the country's history of colonization, which introduced Christianity alongside formal education. Missionaries' primary goal during colonization was to spread Christianity. This facilitated the creation of formal education institutions. The historical context suggests that job opportunities in the ministry were initially created through this process. Participants in the study specifically sought to prepare for ministry roles. While the college emphasizes Christian education, it also aims to enhance economic productivity, labor force participation, and political engagement among its students. These are all crucial for fostering democracy. Any questions for me?
Okay. And Susan, you just came in right under the time limit. I sent you a message, so you did great
Oh,
job.
I'm
Very
sorry.
good. So no, you were
You did
perfect. You were good. So does anybody have any questions for Susan? I have a couple things, but I'm gonna let the committee speak.
And Susan, if you want to stop sharing your screen so we can see everybody's faces
Yeah.
down at the bottom, or actually up at the top. Sorry. Yeah.
Got
There
it.
you go.
How's that?
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, then I mean, one of the things, and I know you and I've actually, had email conversations about this, is I was surprised and I guess a little disheartened by the fact that there really wasn't a focus on educating women or trying to lower violence against women, from the actual students that are there, nor really from the administrators and founders, even though it's like in their charter. And so, I mean, and you talked about that in itself was a finding. Um, do you think further inquiry, future studies could actually uncover this more, or do you really think that this just isn't on their radar?
I was gonna say I don't know how to answer that question. am wondering if if it's not a cultural thing that it was not discussed. Not that they're not aware of it, but they're not able to discuss it.
Okay.
That's something that could, I might need to speak further to some people that are familiar with Uganda
Okay.
on
No,
the
I mean,
look.
I was more just kind of curious because I was, you and I both were like, okay, well, why?
Mhm.
It's in the charter, it's in Uganda Vision. Why isn't this there at all?
Absolutely.
Which, in itself is a finding. So I just wanted to see if what your thoughts were on that.
And that's 50% of the population.
Right.
So I don't understand it either.
Yep. Thank you. Kelly, you're muted.
Buttons, I think. Too many buttons on my computer. So I think that's really important that you bring that up too with your question too. The scarcity of that data, sort of leads to a finding in and of itself. And like Angela mentioned, is it a topic that just doesn't rise to the top because it's not something that's discussed? I mean, the culture is aware of it, but it's not something that came up in any of these discussions, these interviews, these, data that you were able to collect. And by the way, I appreciated like your careful methodology and how you explained how you went about collecting the data and analyzing those data as well. That was nicely done.
I wonder if we were to, if this study was to be replicated in a country where Islam is practiced, whether the same type of results would show up in terms of where women stand in the culture. So it's an interesting area for sure.
Yeah, this is, having been the chair, obviously, Susan and I have talked about this quite a bit. And this to me was the biggest finding. And to me, it speaks of something even larger of, just this, how do we, and she mentioned this, how do we progress, right? If women are not included in that conversation. Susan, I want to just switch gears for a second, talk about methodology. And I'd like you just to elaborate um, on how you used that software, what you were doing. Because as we had spoken about, you had said it needs human eyes on it. And so if you could just talk a little bit, more in detail about how you went about coding, how you use this as a tool, but not necessarily to give you the answers, but as a tool. Yeah.
Absolutely. The first thing was I needed to teach myself how to use the software, which was a task in itself. So I fed my interviews into the software. I input it in there. I input also the documents in, and the software spit out codes. You can ask it to spit out codes, or you can ask it to search for specific codes. So I asked it to just look for any type of commonality that it found. When the codes came out, I had to then go through each one and determine whether it was in the purview of my study, whether it was actually in the scope of the study. Because some things came out, finances, for example, a big one popped out over and over and over again, but it had nothing to do with my study. So it was important that I scrutinize each one of the codes to determine whether it actually fit into my needs. Once that was done, I could reference back to where the software felt the code came from that fit into a particular theme. So therefore, I had to go back and read the passage where it found the code and determine whether the software was actually reading it correctly. Is this really what was meant by what was written? So as a tool, it's a great thing. However, you can't just feed the information out and expect that it's going to give you the correct information. So I'm very thankful that it was there to at least limit the number of codes and themes that came out. But you can't just use that. I'm very thankful that I didn't have to use 5,000 million post-it notes for my codes and themes. But once again, you have to go through and search to make sure that it's actually doing what you want it to do.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So you said that you could also feed codes to it and ask it, were these there? Did you do that?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Yeah. I was curious about that because, you know, in this AI world that we're kind of, you know, climbing our
Embarking
way
on.
through, yeah, it's that give and take, you know, which came first, what the computer found, what you found as a human reader, and I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
But what the computer found, I guess I should backtrack. If something didn't, I guess I'm incorrect. If something didn't pop up that I thought should pop up, I fed that in. I
Okay, so
didn't
you did
feed,
ask. Yeah.
yes, but I didn't feed in a pre-existing list of codes.
Okay,
I
perfect.
looked and said, "Oh, wait a minute. I don't think it found this particular thing that isomorphism, for example, didn't pop up." However, I could type in similarities and then see similarity, what it found with similarities. Laws. Well, did this connect to this in terms of